Hey folks, with us today, Mike from Kernls. Super happy to have you on.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be chatting with you today.
Awesome. Let's start with the most important thing. What problem do you solve for your customers?
Yeah, for sure. So to give you a little bit of background on the company so you have some idea of where this is coming from. I grew up in Toronto, Ontario. My dad had pancreatic cancer for pretty much all of my last 2 years of high school and all of college. Um, and, I got very involved to the point where I actually went and worked in the Medical Research Institute that he was being treated at Princess Margaret Cancer Center in Toronto in their medical physics department. So, I got a very, very good idea of what medical research actually looks like. And on the other side of it had my father, who was going through multiple different treatments for pancreatic cancer, which over a 6-year period of time is a really extraordinary time to actually survive with that disease, which drove me to start the Pancreatic Cancer Foundation of Canada, which was at that time the only issue-based foundation focused on raising money for pancreatic cancer research. And pretty much everything we did, keep in mind, we're going back before Facebook was beyond something that was available to college students at universities that were, within their rollout. Pretty much everything we did was based very directly on understanding what the needs were from different researchers and sharing those, with a network of people that, for one reason or another, were interested in advancing the care for pancreatic cancer. And it was extraordinarily effective. We raised a tremendous amount of money over a very long period of time doing that. I did not work in professional fundraising. I worked in investment management and moved to New York. Many years later, my mom was diagnosed with gallbladder cancer in 2018. She passed away from that disease. And when I went to go get back involved and I was looking for different areas to, give money myself, but as well engage my network, I found that it was actually very difficult to gain a really tangible or concrete understanding of what the opportunities were to be helpful at different research centers. And I thought, I know enough about medical research to understand that the researchers, the men and women that are doing the work, they don't have any aversion to sharing their work. They're really excited actually about being able to connect with the public at, very famous institutions where I have experience. And I wonder, why this is and whether or not this, was any kind of a problem. And really what I did is I started digging into how some really, really successful charities and other verticals operated. So I spent time with founders of some other charities that are in the clean water space, the hunger relief space, people that were raising money, for example, like animal welfare. And what I found is they had really exceptional donor retention, as well as they were building their pipelines organically, meaning they were finding donors without having to pay for that acquisition one way or another. This lies in exact sort of juxtaposition to the world of health and medical research and raising money for science in general. And I thought, this is weird. Why is this? Right? I wasn't a fundraising, I'm not a professional development person. This was my second startup. And, other than that, I'd worked in finance and wealth management. So I wasn't specific to the area, but I thought, well, why is this? When I started looking at it, it seemed like the answer was pretty simple, which is the charities that are in those spaces, like clean water, are able to report back to donors very directly on the impact of the programs they're administering. And that's what people are interested in. And that's what folks share, right?
Yep.
I supported this development of this clean water facility in this town and whatever the case might be. And here it is. Check it out. It's cool. And other people go, oh, that's neat. And then you can talk about it. Giving to medical research is sort of very difficult to do that. I mean, the vast majority of donors do not really understand what their money is doing. And I thought, the problem here is that for whatever reason, there's a lack of agency from these organizations to invest in mechanisms at scale. They're very good at doing this with very large donors, called major gift donors. But doing this at scale, I thought there's really probably an opportunity here to look at using, a combination of software and services and build a SaaS company, that would kind of connect these 2 points and help help at scale these organizations, do this at a lower cost. And the idea being that more folks who, for some reason or another, would have reason to be interested in one area or another of health, would be able to connect with something that they were really excited about, and obviously give money, but also, spread the word and have something really concrete to share. So very specifically, the problem that we solve is we make it very easy for medical research institutes and independent research foundations to connect donors with impact, and that drives a combination of one, retention, and two, it drives organic referrals for them to find new donors, and often very large ones.
So the value prop to the organizational institution is basically that you increase the pipeline or volume of donations and the amount raised, basically.
That's exactly right. We help them with getting their donors that are already to some degree interested in what they're doing, engaged in, one, hopefully giving more money, but also two, sharing their work, and driving referrals in, which is, at the end of the day, the vast majority of new large donors for the world of medical research come from either patients of a hospital, which is called a grateful patient. And in the case of more fundamental medical research, they come from referrals from other large donors who've explained why it's interesting and to some degree acclimatize their network. So we help them do that at a larger scale and a lower cost.
If you need to hire the right developers and ship fast, then React Squad is for you. A boutique agency that specializes in React and only works with fast growth startups. Get a 14-day risk-free trial and a transparent price of $95 per hour. Visit reactsquad.io to learn more.
And then moving a bit away from the product or the purpose of the company and more to like the company building side of things. How do you approach building something in that space? I mean, like from a company building perspective, because in the end, every company as a for-profit needs to acquire customers, retain them, and make a profit, at least enough profit to live of it. So how do you manage that? Because it's quite a unique space. Like it's not the typical B2B SaaS, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Could have a conversation on the market and dealing with the development side and the nonprofit side at a different time. But really, the way that we approached the development of the product really had two stages. The first stage was, and the first thing that we needed to understand as a company was, will really large, institutions with, quite honestly, quite a lot to lose, if they offer their donors a bad experience, they probably have more to lose than to gain. Will they trust a very early stage startup? Will they use our software? In the early days, we were focused on somewhat of a marketplace approach. So we had a lot of different projects really forward on our website. So the first thing that we really focused on is, well, what can we build here incrementally that's going to generate, enough trust in these early relationships to sign up and to start actually, engaging with us, so that we have an opportunity to, beyond having conversations about their needs or whatever else, actually get them engaging with us and using the product and engaging their donors. So the real first phase of the company, probably where I spent the better part of the first year, was everything to do with, and it's not just technical, right? It's understanding the operating environment, the rules, right? So when you have a platform that's taking in donations for folks that are going to the University of Southern California or going to Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation, which is the largest oncology center in Canada, part of University of Toronto, names like this, what's a regulatory environment that you are operating in? What are your obligations to the platform? What do you need to make sure that you're doing correctly? Getting the right type of advice in those areas. So really the first year of the company was really about understanding those things, and particularly me being able to go and sit down with people that were in a position to sign, an agreement with us and make sure that, we, from an operating perspective and from a product perspective and user experience perspective, had something that met that bar. Once we did that, we signed up, I think, 14 different institutions to use the platform, and very, very large name brand ones. Albert Einstein College of Medicine in the Bronx in New York City, Kernls Burke Neurological Institute, the University of Toronto's Princess Margaret Cancer Centre, the University Health Network in Canada's American Foundation, Canadian Cancer Society. These are very, very large institutions, both on the development side, on the research side, as well as the independent foundation side. So once we validated that, we actually went out and raised some more money. So the initial funds that I raised was kind of the minimum that I felt was necessary to make sure that we weren't going to be building something in a space where people just didn't want to deal with a company at our stage. So once we validated that, we went out and raised some more money. And then from there, really, one of the mistakes that I made kind of lies in this area, but we really put our focus into understanding. How we would fit into the workflow of our clients. So, when we first started out, we wanted to be as low touch as possible for them. So we had we have still Kernls, our own website. You can put a project there. It's kind of got that marketplace feel, sort of, a la GoFundMe. And what we found was that we were doing successful initial projects with folks, so called the pilots, but that setup wasn't appropriate to scale with us, because the reality is, in the B2B2C market, there just wasn't a realistic path forward for those folks directing, large numbers of their donors to our site. And that's when we made really a hard pivot into a pure SaaS model. Since that point, really all of the development is based on, our backlog is entirely based on a series of known issues or areas of the user experience, some of which don't come to the front-facing product. I mean, I can give you an example of something. For example, if you're they're not a client of ours, but Harvard University, and you're working with Kernls, and we've got a number of different research initiatives that we've put together. We've put together project pages. We've put together back-end communications for folks. And there's emails that are going out to donors that are associated with the project. Those could either come from Kernls and in some way look like they're coming from Harvard, or there can be some level of a CRM integration that allows those to actually come from Harvard and them to maintain that. So right now, most of the focus is in enabling our customers, enabling our clients to organically communicate with their donor base, and to use Kernls as a hub, for what it's for, which is, at a reasonable cost, being able to do a really nice job at bringing on content about the programs, but also enable that sharing behavior. So that was kind of phase one, was, all about create a reputable place where, folks are going to be comfortable in our market doing business. And phase two really was the pivot to SaaS, and really a focus on product features that enable them to organically communicate with their donors in a way that's going to make the most sense to them.
When did you make that switch? Because you're roughly 4 years in total. When did you make that switch to proper SaaS, so to say?
Yeah, I mean, 4 years. I think we're a little over 3. We incorporated.
Okay. Yeah.
We incorporated a little bit before I got active with this. I was transitioning out of my previous fintech startup before this. We made the switch about a year and a half in. So after we raised a little bit more capital, and basically we were bringing on lots of institutions and doing, having successful projects, but we knew it was quite obvious that the path to the level of adoption that would make the business viable and achieve the type of impact that, founded the company to have, wouldn't be viable without that switch.
And then it sounds like it's quite a, so to say, traditional space. Maybe the institutions are less of early adopters as you might find them if you would be targeting, I don't know, SEO agencies. And it sounds like it's very lower amount of numbers, but higher ticket size, meaning enterprise sales type of customers in a way. How do you approach the sales process? Because I know that a lot of people in enterprise sales are have quite an aggressive outbound strategy, but my gut feeling is I'm not sure how well that would sit with institutions of that kind. So how do you manage the sales side of things as a founder in that ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just by way of background, my previous company, Tradewind, I mean, we raised almost $30 million from a variety of strategic players in our space. Our clients were a combination of very large multinational banks, gold producers, because we built supply chain and settlement software for that industry. Some of the largest refining companies in the world, the Canadian Mint, was an operator on our platform. So I'm used to dealing with institutions where it's important to come at them from a perspective that's going to make sense for them. And when you're coming from a startup that people don't know what it is, it makes that all the more challenging. So approaching someone at so the way that we've approached it is we put quite a bit of effort. Wouldn't say quite a bit, but a reasonable amount of effort into some earned media in the earlier days. Once we'd gotten some pilots off the ground, we were on the front page of the Report on Business in Canada for the Globe and Mail, which is kind of Canada's national newspaper. I don't know what the circulation is. It's in the high millions. It's definitely the most, I don't know if it's the most well-read paper in Canada. I don't want to throw something out that's wrong, but it's
quite a big one.
It's quite big. But we were on the front page of that. There was a big picture and a story that really described the company. And that drove a tremendous amount of very, very high level CEO level, interest in Canada. For example, one of our most engaged partners is the Canadian Cancer Society, which came from CEO level relationship. And then separately from that, we get a tremendous amount of organic interest, just because the world of medical research is relatively well networked. So we have, for example, Paul Azen, who's the director of USC's Alzheimer's Therapeutic Research Institute. That's not necessarily a household name, but it's without question the most significant center in the world coordinating clinical trials for Alzheimer's research across the globe. So, when people see, people like Dr. Azen, when they see stories about our partnership and our clients with like the Prince of Pancreatic Cancer Center, when they see those things happening and they see researchers from those different facilities who are of international caliber that are comfortable exposing themselves to the platform, it drives a significant amount of interest. So, really, I did a little bit of sort of cold outreach with, testing some different value props. And I really don't think it's an appropriate outreach strategy for our market. And I don't think it's necessary, which is, I think, probably the nicest thing about the business from if you look at all of the different pieces that go into making a startup work, is the acquisition side for our businesses is pretty robust. Like I said, I mean, we signed up 15, mainly world recognizable or renowned partners, clients, out of our beta, as a function of that, of investing so heavily in that initial trust element and getting those first folks on there.
Yeah.
So it is all referral based.
So from the outside, it sounds like, due to the quite unique thing you offer and the niche being so small in terms of potential customers, that this word of mouth kicks in, meaning you're like, in a way, the big fish in a small pond meaning just counting the institutions. Is that accurate? Like, how many institutions are out there that could be potential customers? As someone out of the field, I have zero clue if that is accurate or if there are like thousands and thousands in practice.
Yeah, I mean, for us to be able to, just to give you an idea of our organic backlog, we have 350 institutions we consider in market that have come through our site, many of them with multiple visitors. We have 60 qualified leads in our pipeline, where we believe all of those have a, multi-six-figure ACV potential for us. So there is quite a number. In the US, the space is a $50 billion gross space. Is roughly $50 billion a year, which is donated through channels that would be appropriate to apply to Kernls being helpful in the space. So that's at, I think, something in the order of magnitude of around 1,000 institutions in the 1,000 institutions or organizations in North America that would be, potential customers for us at a scale that would make sense for our business.
Yeah, makes sense. And then how do you plan to grow it from here? Because you already have like an amazing foundation. So what's the step from here to the next 3, 4, 5 years where you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, the block and tackle answer to that question is sort of what I said earlier, which is we need to both be welcomed sort of inside the tent of our clients and partners that we've had success with to be able to scale with them. So one component is being able to figure out how we can work completely hand in glove with our tightest partners, and then they're going to be able to use Kernls at a scale within their organizations that that makes sense for them. So I think that's kind of the first component, and I think the second component comes to a much larger question about sort of vision. If you're talking 5 years out for us, and really the vision for the company, if you boil it all down, is I firmly believe that it's not that I believe it, it's a known fact. If you understand somebody's intent, if you understand your customer's intent, you're going to be very, very good at delivering what they want. And I'm not going to say selling them something, doing what they want. I'm somebody who opts into sharing my data because I figure that it's probably known anyway, and I would rather get the benefit of being shown things or offered promotions or whatnot that might be applicable to me. What Kernls is part of, and I think there is absolutely no question that what I'm saying will happen in the charitable space, and it already happens in some parts, but not in others. Or, for example, where we're applied, is we're going to be part of the stack that's used to understand what people's interest and intent, where people's interest and intent lies in different circumstances. So by taking something which starts at a very high level, so if you think about it, we could say, I give money to the American Cancer Society, not a client of ours, don't know anybody there. So I'm picking it because it's kind of the large, ubiquitous kind of, just to be for the avoidance of doubt. But if you say I give money to the American Cancer Society versus I give money to the Breast Cancer Research Foundation versus I give money to a very, very, very specific, very small breast cancer foundation, you would probably know a lot more about somebody that was giving to that much, much smaller specific organization. You'd probably guess a lot more about their intent from the American Cancer Society. That said, that doesn't scale particularly well. So having millions of very small organizations with all of the operations that surround them to be able to focus on funding things in very specific areas, you're replicating so many functions that ultimately the more efficient, larger organization when it comes to all the shared resources is better. So what do? Right? We deliver to that larger organization the capability to dial people into where they want to be and to understand that better. And what that'll do is that'll let those organizations focus on less time producing content that is not that potentially applicable to maybe anybody. I don't know exactly that answer, to focusing on putting their time and energy and money and valuable resources that have been largely probably donated by the people or by our governments into giving the feedback to folks that have intent in specific areas and keeping them up with those threads. So that's really how we grow, is delivering on, going from kind of this content layer and hub and all the rest of this type of thing to something which is, realistically part of the stack that helps you understand as an organization, what folks are interested in who have given to you or in other ways interacted with your digital presence.
Amazing. And then as the last and final question, where can people find you online?
So, our website, obviously, Kernls.com. I'm not a good social media person. So I've got 2 young kids and, the business and everything. So I decided if I can't keep up with it properly, I see some of my heroes out there who are able to, keep up a wicked Twitter presence, and they've always got interesting things to say. And I always think, man, those people have another gear in them than I do, but I couldn't keep up with it. So I kind of stepped back, but, it's, the company's is Give with Kernls. I am on Twitter, but it's certainly not something that I engage with regularly. So
amazing. And I think you got your priorities straight there. Kids come first and then Twitter, I guess, for most people.
It depends on what you need to accomplish with your business, but I feel like it's right now.
True. Amazing. Thanks a ton for coming on, Mike. Was a fun chat.
Thank you.
If you like this episode, then you'll love the SaaS Operator, a weekly newsletter brought to you by EarlyNode, with actionable insights from SaaS experts in the industry delivered right to your inbox every Tuesday for free. Visit earlynode.com to subscribe.